Alright, my name is Robert Hughes, and I'm going to be talking about the art direction for the tutorial level for our game. Um, I'm part of Team Extendables, and so for the facility, which is like the tutorial area of the game, it starts in a underground testing facility where you have different rooms, like here, that have like a bunch of like stone wall stuff, and it'll change. Like this will be the common theme throughout all the rooms, like a much rougher stone look, um, and then it'll have a mix of technology, like you have with a bridge that'll extend out. You'll have areas where the player has to actually interact with stuff. There's lights all over, like little construction areas. Then you have just places where after you're like coming through stuff, you end up going into areas like um, above the ground, because once you get up to here, this is kind of like a main service area or so, because you enter here and this is like a sort of like a lounge area, but there are soldiers here because you are going against the will of the people at the testing facility. You've gone through your tests and now you're pretty much going against what they want you to do, and you're presented with like areas where you can walk in, and now um, like you're in a storehouse, there's more soldiers, and then you finish off by coming to a room with a big TV and you have to get past the TV. And then key integral part of this is for like a transition is that you have this train. This train is what takes you to the other level all over that way. And this is itself is like here's it's just a quick getaway sort of thing. And that train's going to be more futuristic techy because it'll be taking you all the way to the city that'll be over there after you go through the desert and all that. Um, it's pretty much like a imagine Portal, but more of a dark tone for the look of the room. You're having a little more combat with actually shooting an infected and the soldiers. Um, Overall, it's pretty much just like the big intro area that it should feel like a sort of you're locked in here, and the only way to get out is force your way out. Yep, that is going to do it for this part of the art direction, and I will pass it off to the next person, Taylor, to tell you about his level.
Okay, so in the outskirts desert level, you have just come off a train coming from the main testing facility, and first thing you come across is the hostile creature of what we've dubbed the Barnacle. So in this area, the player is meant to feel weary, you know, kind of confused because, you know, just coming out of a high-tech facility, you're coming into this dingy, dark, uh, sort of, yeah, so sort of abandoned area, you know, with nobody around, no real light or ambience. And, you know, as the player makes his way down, he's gonna notice that there's two paths here. The one over here is filled with infected, and these broken watchtowers, sort of to give off a you know, abandoned, rundown, you know, desolate vibe. Um, and then over this other area, there are many, many more barnacles hanging from this cave ceiling in this magma chamber. Um, very much giving off an inhospitable vibe that the player has to navigate through. And then once he's collected what he needs to collect in this area, he makes his way outside into this very open, um, very open landscape. You know, gives off this morose, very you know, very hostile. Again, there's zombies all over the place. The player hasn't seen another single human being, which is a large contrast from the last area where he constantly had somebody talking in his ear. Um, you know, he makes his way across, all the while seeing this like colossal work equipment off in the distance, and he makes his way and he sees his first human adversary, which is should currently be fighting off enemies by the time he gets here. Um, and the enemy's going to return fire onto him. He's going to, you know, learn that people around here aren't so friendly, so it's going to give you the impression of a remnant force in the area that's still trying to hold on and hold back the hordes of infected in this abandoned and at this abandoned mining operation. Again, many more infected down in the actual cavern itself. You know, and the player's main objective is just to survive and get out of here as soon as possible. Um, you know, but once the equipment is disturbed, the military remnants that are around to try and re-secure the dig site come out to try and stop him from interfering with operations. Um, and then once the player has dealt with them, he makes his way out um, towards hopefully civilization. And you could see that there are this sort of village in the outside of the just outside of the canyon that is now um, completely more of a ghost town now than anything. And once again, the military has stepped in here um, to try to lock up operations, but the player has to fight his way through them in order to get out of this sort of failed mining operation, which now the enemy faction is trying to regain control of.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Jeffrey Simmons. I'm part of the Extendable Capstone team. This is going to be the third level of our game. I'm going to be doing a quick fly through of my level. This level here is supposed to be kind of like a slum area. The main enemies here going to be zombies. They're going to be rising up from the ground. The breadcrumbs that the player's going to be following are these little glow sticks. And then there's a few soldiers, but the main enemies are zombies. We got these lights here that's going to light the way and light up some of the interiors of these buildings. We got some smaller pipes here that the player's going to walk on. And then this bigger pipe the players should jump into. And up in here, we got nuclear parts of the buildings that the player can explode to show the way. And you see, for the most part, most of these buildings are dilapidated, barely standing, and the whole city itself is kind of sitting in like a bowl of acid. So if the player touches the acid, of course, that they'll die. The main function of this level is double jumping. I'm introducing double jumping in this level. So there's a lot of jumping between building to building and blowing up walls of these destroyed buildings and finding keys to unlock certain doors. And then at the end of my level, there is a little building here that recharges the player to go across the bridge and go into the next level. Once again, my name is Jeffrey Simmons. This is the 3rd level of our capstone, and this is the slums. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Hello, my name is Brendan Flanagan. I'm part of the Extendables, and I just want to quickly go over a little bit of the art style for this particular level in our game. At this point, I just want to give an overview look. We could see that the player just come through a couple areas of, desert tone, and I have a level that is right before the player enters the city area. So, heavy duty city, heavy duty desert, and my level's somewhere in the middle. So I kind of have some buildings that go for this kind of Middle Eastern look. I want these to be kind of made out of clay looking, and that goes for a lot of these buildings over here. But there are buildings that are equipped with enemy military technology, I guess you could say. So in here, we could see that there is indeed some technology involved that the player will need to interact with. So there'll be chunks of buildings in here that are not that like low-tech clay building, but it will be more of like a military high-tech establishment. It'll be this taller building and this taller building. However, these other shorter sections and destroyed sections will be made of clay and brick or something that conveys a Middle East or lower tech vibe. So yeah, that's pretty much like the art direction for this level. I want to try and keep this video short and sweet. The main things I'll be looking for are solid walls that look low-tech, solid walls that look high-tech, windowed walls that look low-tech, and windowed walls that look high-tech. Those are pretty much my biggest concerns because my whole level is made out of those 2 types of walls, but I also need to have those 2 types of walls that give 2 types of vibes of what they do, or where their origins. So yes, that is all. Thank you very much for watching this little art direction video. Bye. Oh, I forgot to mention that yeah, there's a ton of conflict like going on in the streets. So there's burning vehicles. This is like a destroyed helicopter. It just kind of spawns on begin play. And there's a conflict going on between the zombies and the soldiers and the player. So yeah, these enemy soldiers are fighting the zombies, and everything's all in disarray. There's burning debris, illuminating the dark areas and little table lamps as well. So yeah, that conflict is the same thing pretty much on every street. Like I said, the burning debris, illuminating the environment, futuristic auto turrets shooting at zombies, and APCs dropping off soldiers to shoot the player. Once again, more zombies. So yeah, just conflict everywhere. The player's going to be throwing barrels, blowing stuff up. And they get their RPG and shoot down helicopters. So yeah, I just wanted to mention what the player's doing in this level. That's all. Thanks again.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Flagg. I am part of Team Extendables, or the Extendables, I should say, and this is going to be a demonstration of the basic art direction of my area of our project, which is going to be the downtown area. So here we have an overview of just kind of the entire game, starting kind of, I don't know if you hopefully can see my cursor, but over here in the facility, which actually begins underground, does progress through the desert here, through the canyon mining area, through the outskirts slums, then through to this kind of like outside of the city military installation. Probably at one point belonged to the citizens of the city, but has now been taken over by the military faction that we have in our game. And then after that, the player kind of transitions through this outer wall, across this bridge, and onto and through these placeholder. Obviously, there's a lot of placeholder assets, of course. This city wall. Excuse me. They kind of climb this kind of an imposing structure to keep some of the zombies and stuff out, as well as to keep citizens and stuff in. Now, the kind of main premise of my area, which is this is not all playable. You can see there's kind of some walls that are blocking off more of the just kind of like environmental background. And again, a lot of placeholder stuff is probably get replaced, especially the textures at some point. But my area is basically kind of a transition from, it's not the slums of the outer city. This is kind of just where the general populace lives. Eventually, it does transition into this kind of more glassy, neon, Neo-Tokyo, kind of cyberpunkish area that is Noah's level, where basically we kind of have it to where this is where most of like the executives or the heads of the villainous faction reside because they have the money and the power. So, to go back kind of here to the start, just kind of give a general idea. My level kind of takes place, which you can't really tell right now without sound and all that, but there's basically the citizens, whether they're inspired by the player or not. At this point, that was kind of in my head canon. They're starting to revolt against the regime that's kind of in charge and doing all these experiments with zombies and having soldiers in the streets and stuff. So there's a lot of fire, a lot of things burning, a lot of soldier outposts like this. Generally, it's kind of not as high tech as some of the later, like more cyberpunk areas. These buildings, again, are just kind of placeholders. These are obviously kind of modern day. Kind of wanted it to be a little more present than that high tech area in the future. Oops, went to the underworld there. You can see there's kind of a demonstration going on with police cars. Obviously, right now it's not in play mode, so they're not animated or anything. Have some patrol helicopters and, again, general vehicles on fire. Just general riot kind of stuff. But the player does eventually make their way through here. This group of citizens, unfortunately, meets their fate with this helicopter here. But players will kind of use lighting, hopefully, to guide them through the streets, through these combat sections, into this building, which right now is basically like the enemy's tech lab. So players actually break through this glass and into this kind of more, typical industrial / technological, scientific technology lab, I guess. Got a little break room here, of course, because every group of villainous soldiers needs a break. But players will basically make their way through these different lab settings. Right now, it's just all kind of this concrete marble tile. Still kind of going to be sterile, but maybe not this sterile. Kind of just generally make their way through these different rooms with different setups that the faction is working on. So again, it'll be like a lot of cameras, a lot of props that are maybe related to kind of this cold technological / military look, kind of to match the soldiers. So not full on like, white laboratories, like scientifics, that kind of sterile, but more like a mix of military and technology. Multiple floors here, if I can get to, yeah, here we go. Same thing, they get different power-ups and abilities. This texture is actually right now just to have things that the player can grappling hook onto. So that's kind of this general environment of this building. Eventually they make their way to the roof, which continues the exterior kind of art direction motif that I have, making their way across here. start to see some combination. Right now, the zombies here are going to be fighting these soldiers. So again, just kind of more destruction, fire. Players will break into this building and have access to right now our temporary vehicle mesh that we have right here. And once they're in that, they will actually begin to drive through. It's kind of dark right now, but they will actually drive through more combat of soldiers and zombies fighting. This is a station where they actually will drive over, forced to drive over, and equip their vehicle with a gun, which they will then use on these open streets. Right now, these are pretty open. Also a little difficult to see again because of the lighting. And this reflective texture material that I use on the streets is a little too reflective. So, but let's see if I can pull out and get a general idea of this is basically going to be a combat section against these helicopters. Same general art style is pretty much used throughout my whole level. The only difference is really when you're inside that tech lab building, though. And again, this is kind of temporary. These are grappling hook points that the player can grapple onto. Right now, they're floating. That may change, but it's kind of a transition between the low tech that is the citizens have access to once they get into here and into Noah's level through this building. That is when they are in this more technological area, which is the final part of the game. So that is where the difference between like the initial military base over here that is partially underground that the players escape from, through the mining that I would imagine the military faction is doing, through the slums that they kind of wrecked. Brendan's level where they're taking that over, and then into this walled off city section, which does include the neon section, the cyberpunky high tech more area over here. But so yeah, kind of low tech art style. Nothing really new as far as that. That's kind of just the general aesthetic. But, thank you very much, and I will go ahead and pass it off to the next person. Thank you. Hello. Also, real quick, just as a general kind of reference, when we had originally envisioned kind of at least the more high-tech area of our city, this actual asset pack that I had here, which is listed as low poly, it's a little bit more detailed than some of our environments, but this is actually kind of, at least in our heads, kind of representative of the look that we were sort of going for, more or less, not 100%, but with the, kind of the imposing city walls and kind of the like futuristic downtown skyscraper. So maybe not necessarily for my downtown level, and not something that we're going to include for sure, but it is something we're maybe considering. But regardless, this is sort of the look we're going for at least the tail end of this city environment. So I thought I would include this just in case. So thank you again, and I will pass this along.
Alright, so this is going to be an overview of our high-rise level, which is the final level in the game, and has like a Neo Tokyo style to it. You can tell with all the neon lights and everything. The player is going to be using a lot of wall running, and they get a katana, so it's going to be pretty fast-paced. And yeah, I mean, other than that, we have some combat areas, some on the rooftops, and then some are indoors. There's a general, there's a slow pace at this beginning building, which is why it's not as brightly lit up over here. This is kind of like a security facility, and they'll be going through and doing more puzzles than combat in here. And then they get the katana right here, and this is when the world really kind of opens up, and that's whenever you get the neon lights and the bright city kind of vibe. And also, one major thing about this is that the main player path, which is all of these buildings, should visually be different, or will be different visually than the surrounding areas. That way they kind of know what their play area is. Then the player makes their way through here, kind of snakes around, comes into this building, breaks this glass right here, kind of hopefully a climatic ending, kills a few enemies, and they take an elevator up to here where there will be a helicopter that kind of flies away just into the right position to where they can wall run off of this wall panel into the helicopter, and that kind of ends the game for them. And what I like about it is that it faces kind of where the sun would be setting, so you get this nice sunset into the end of the game. But overall, general artistic is just fast-paced, bright lights. You know, you're moving around a lot. A lot's happening. Once that world opens up, once you come out of that main security facility. But yeah, nothing too specific.